完成だ。北海道講座印のスペシャル豪雪うどん。
Today I'm going to teach you guys how to turn some potatoes into some noodles. Thank you to ridge.com/chefpk for sponsoring today's video. I can now hold 12 cards with cash without losing speed or strength. Made of premium titanium materials. What is this? Big brother, you've returned. You think you can get rid of me? It is I, Dio. I have come back stronger than ever. Take this. Pathetic. So easily. Nani? With a lifetime warranty and free worldwide shipping, I cannot be easily defeated, big brother. You cannot surpass me. I can't keep up. Where is he? No! Use the links below at ridge.com/chefpk for 10% off and free worldwide shipping. After you collect yourself and your potatoes off of the floor, grab your basket for your strainer, and I'm using about 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram worth of potatoes. Now I am going to be using a wok for this to try to steam these potatoes because we don't want to actually boil them, we do want to steam them. So I grab some hot water out of my kettle, just enough to where it starts coming up onto the basket, not to hit the potatoes too much. Bring this to a high boil, grab your lid. Do you have a lid? No, we don't have a lid. So grab a pot, place the strainer in the pot, and throw that hot water into that pot. Now grab your 3 potatoes and then we can't fit the third one in there, Paul. We can't. What are you doing over here? Grab the biggest pot that you have. Now place all 3 of your potatoes in there because they finally fit. Add the hot water to that, grab your lid. Why is this happening? Grab a second pan to finally cover it and steam these potatoes. Now while the potatoes are steaming, add 1 liter worth of cold water to that pot that you used originally for the potatoes, followed by a 4-inch piece of Konbu that Gandalf thinks is a snack and now feels betrayed. Grab 4 shiitake mushrooms, add that to your water, and bring this over to the stove. Once the bubbles start forming on the surface, remove the Konbu, otherwise it's going to get weird and slimy and you just don't want to boil the Konbu. Now grab another potato for this. I'm using a smaller 200 gram potato. Make sure you do peel it completely to get it really clean, and once it is peeled, we're going to grate this potato. The reason why we are grating this potato on somewhat of a larger setting is that way you'll have bits of potato in the broth, but it also releases a lot of starch. So grate all of your potatoes directly onto a plate, making sure you don't add any knuckles to the mixture, and once you have all of that potato, you're going to take this and add it to your broth. Give this a gentle stir, trying not to agitate it too much because you can run the risk of breaking down the potato too much. I'm adding in another 500 milliliters worth of water because it started to feel a little too thick. Now season this with a bunch of salt and pepper as needed because yes, it is unseasoned. Give this another stir just to make sure it's fully incorporated, and bring this up to a nice simmer. I bring this almost up to that boil stage, but just right before it actually starts boiling pretty hard because then you can actually break all that potato. Once your potatoes are nice and soft and break down in the hand, throw a lid on it and let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. After letting it rest, we are going to add in a few more things. First, we're adding in 30 milliliters worth of light soy sauce, and then 30 milliliters worth of mirin. Give this a little stir just to make sure that the mirin and the soy sauce are fully incorporated. Throw your lid back on it and let that sit. After running back in from the workout, check on those potatoes and make sure they are fork tender, or in this case, skewer tender. You want to make sure that the skewer goes in very easily and comes out very easily. This will tell you that they're done. After letting them rest for 15 minutes or so with the heat off, these should peel very easily. Now grab some of the peel, season it with salt, and eat that as a snack. Grab 2 bowls for this. Add 1 potato to that first smaller bowl, and then peel back the potatoes for the second bowl. This is going to be incredibly hot. If you need to, grab some oven-safe gloves and use those, or use a fork or a knife to break them down instead. You can see this is fully cooked on the inside, and the biggest thing is just making sure you don't have any of that skin on there. Deposit your 2 larger potatoes into the larger bowl, making sure you get any other bits in there. Then peel back that other potato for that other bowl. Now take that other peeled potato and just add it to the big bowl because you're just going to use all of the same batter anyways. Now using a potato masher, start mashing up this potato until it is nice and lumpy. Once it's nice and lumpy, we are going to measure out 25 grams worth of all-purpose flour. We also need a lot of potato starch for this. I'm measuring out 50 grams worth of potato starch and 100 grams worth of water. Now make sure you do season the potatoes just to make sure they have enough salt. Mash these up just a bit more so that way the salt incorporates itself, and then add in your flour and your potato starch mixture. Grab yourself a spoon and start incorporating the flour and the potato starch into your mashed potatoes. Once it starts to cool down, you can start using your hands to bring this together. This did not have enough potato starch, so I added an additional 100 grams worth of potato starch. The reason is that it felt super wet while I was mixing it by hand, so I had to add in that potato starch to make sure it dried it out just a bit more. I ended up adding in just a splash of my water to help break down some of the potato starch that didn't fully incorporate itself into my my batter. Your mileage will vary on the water content. Now grab a small portion of it and try to roll this out into a snake shape like you did with Play-Doh. If you can pick it up without it breaking apart, you are good to go, but mine kept breaking apart. So I just grabbed all of the potato starch that I had and kept it out just in case I needed it. I heavily dusted this with more potato starch, folding the potato starch into the mashed potatoes, and constantly worked this until it was dry enough to where I could start rolling it. If you can pick up your entire mashed potato portion and hold it in your hands like this, you should be on your way to being able to make these noodles. Now grab a bowl, and why do you grab all the smallest bowls today? After letting this rest covered for 15 minutes, we're going to try to shape some of these noodles. Cut off a small chunk of your potato mixture, placing the rest in a giant bowl, and being very generous with the potato starch on your cutting board so this way it doesn't stick to everything that you're using. Pat this down into about 1/4 inch of thickness, just making sure that it is as even as possible. Now I tried using my actual bench scraper to cut these noodles, and they came out okay, but they were super delicate. As I worked down the sheet, I ended up using my knife to make sure I cut these really nice noodles. A big thing to make sure you do is making sure that you do separate the noodles as you cut them, which you'll see what we'll do in just a minute. Dust these with just a bit more potato starch and grab a few of them that do hold up and place these into some warm water. Make sure that the water is not boiling, otherwise you will run into the issue of the potato breaking before that potato starch can actually start congealing. Now for the little mochi potatoes, you can use the same exact mixture, but grab 80 grams worth of your potato mixture and form these into little pucks. This is the super easy one. These hold up really nicely, and to be honest, they were some of my favorite parts. Now after simmering those noodles for 20 or so minutes, drop these into an ice bath. Yes, I did say 20 minutes because these take forever. These are very similar to making tapioca or making boba pearls. After cooling down, you can see that they did hold up fairly well. They're slightly slimy. They almost look like a noodle worm kind of thing. The potato starch has a very interesting effect on the noodles. They don't feel like pasta by any means, but they taste pretty decent. Now roll out another sheet of your potato mixture using a rolling pin if you have it, and square this up as best as you can, bringing it to that 1/4 inch thickness. Now make sure you do dust this heavily with your potato starch, and once you dust the top, shift it over and dust the bottom of your cutting board with more potato starch. This is going to help prevent any sticking when we go to cut all of these noodles. Now grab your sharp knife and start cutting these noodles into 1/4 inch thick noodles. You do want to take your time for this and make sure you do roll each noodle away from the center mass. The reason why you do this is to prevent any sticking from each other that I did experience previously. After quite a bit of time, you're going to have all these really beautiful potato noodles. Now pick these up very carefully and place them into warm water, not boiling water. Once you place them in, add in as many noodles as you can to this water to get it going without overcrowding your pan. It's super important, otherwise they will start to stick to each other. You can see as I add in a few more on top, I have to grab some chopsticks and make sure that they are not touching too much. Now after simmering these for 20 minutes, remove them from the water, place them into the ice bath, and this is going to be the first batch of potato noodles. Now let these rest in the ice bath for 10 minutes, then remove them from the ice bath, placing them into a separate bowl. Don't worry about them sticking too much. You won't need to add any oil or anything to these noodles. You can just let them hang out in the fridge while we get everything else ready. Now the first garnish we're going to be making is frying our shiso leaf. You are going to need a substantial amount of oil for this, and bring that to a medium-high heat. You don't want your oil smoking for this because this does burn very quickly. After placing your shiso leaf in your oil for only about 10 seconds on each side, this is going to be ready to go. The best indicator is to make sure that there are no more bubbles forming and pull it out right before that happens. Place this on some paper towel to make sure a lot of that oil drains. The next garnish is going to be the potato mochi. You're going to use the same oil for this, so that's kind of a win. And make sure you do season potato on each side with just a touch more salt. After frying these on a low heat, make sure they're not sticking too hard. And once you've attained G-Bad, golden brown, and delicious on one side, flip them, throw a lid on it, and turn off the heat and just let them hang out. Now I did drop my noodles back into some warm water to get them hot again because no one wants to eat these cold. They actually taste horrible cold. And after rewarming the noodles, place these into a large bowl, making sure you remove any excess liquid as possible. Bring this bowl of noodles that is far too big of a bowl over to your cutting board and place those noodles into a smaller bowl, which makes a lot more sense. Now grab your potato broth and fill this up almost to the brim. You can go ham on this, you can do whatever you want. Now grab those beautifully fried potato mochis, making sure you place it kind of on the bowl as well so it doesn't fall directly in. Garnish it with your shiso and some fresh green onions that I had laying around from another video, and there it is, the Gousetsu Udon from Food Wars, which is a really big task. There it is, guys, the Gousetsu Udon from Food Wars. Now, the tricky part really is those noodles because you're using potato starch. Now, potato starch only activates with heat, whereas with something like gnocchi, you're using flour, and that gluten can activate just by working it constantly. So if you are doing this, I would recommend maybe just using a gnocchi recipe and making noodles out of it, but these noodles do hold up fairly well, so, you know, it could be worth it. It smells fantastic, by the way, so I don't know why I'm talking bad about it right now just from the look at the noodles though. They're pretty nice. They're a little slimy looking. Cheers. Okay, I see you. The noodles are a little weird to me. They almost taste like eating boba, but it's not bad. The big reason why Yukihira had grated those potatoes into the broth was to actually thicken it. Look at the viscosity of the broth. That is why he thickened it with potato. That was the biggest reason why you grate the potato into it, to get that thickness out of it. Oh, that's good. Now let's try this fried potato mochi. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, but it's so good. Oh, I think I like this the most. Let me know if you've ever tried to make anything like this before. It's not an easy task, but I feel like if you want to give yourself a challenge, it's a really fun thing to try. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the links down below where you can buy my books or join Patreon. My name is Chefpk. Get subscribed. Remember, keep playing with your food. Now, it's an ugly day outside, so I might just go enjoy this watching the rain fall.